Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I'd like to welcome you to Tuesday. It's a solid day, not nearly the best of days, but it is a day that is satisfactory nonetheless. On this July 8th, we are going to celebrate the 722nd Day 9 Daily, where we learn to be a better gamer. And also, eyes up here. I know that there's a little bit of a distraction here. Stay focused with me, because we're about to make Terrans mad. Mad is what we're going to make the Terran players in today's episode, because we will be examining the extraordinarily strong, stunningly easy to execute, and the winningest of easy plays from PigBaby and Protoss vs. Terran, an observer-heavy, zealot-heavy style. Ooh. Ooh. That's what we're going to do. Tomorrow we'll do some Hearthstone, then I'm going to do no shows for 6 days because I'll be in Atlanta at the Red Bull Battlegrounds, Atlanta. I would love it if you came to Atlanta. Great. Let's talk about the style, the strat, the opening, and what's up with this. Sort of the typical flow of a usual Protoss vs. Terran that we've been seeing. I'll start from the Terran side of things. Is that we see the Terran kind of sit back and chill on two bases, on these two bases. Sit back and wait, and then when medevacs kick in, a big move out, and there's this pressure period where Terran is applying pressure to Protoss, and the Protoss is staying withheld and avoiding taking too much damage. And then Terran dips back to being a little bit more clumpy, keeping the army together. So again, it's really a three-phase play for Terran. Stay back, then get medevacs and move out, and then pull everything back together and do big pushes. That's it. That's the general, typical game flow that we see out of Terran buddies. The motivation for this is, of course, Protoss can kill everything we do early, but then there's that danger zone where he'll have either Colossus or Templar, but not both. And it's hard for Protoss to be in all these places at once, because the Protoss player doesn't have a lot of stuff yet. That's where the exploitation happens. So the general answer, and in fact I think that everyone should do a shot every time I say general, because we've used it oh so many times. It is the rubric of success of a daily, and I feel, is how many times I use the word general. So I'm going to be general information, give you the general notion of what typically in a standard PvT side we'd see out of that Protoss player. Protoss stays defensive early, doesn't really do much, but then is desperately trying to get out the money tech. There's different kinds of money tech. There's also different kinds of all-ins, but we're going to ignore all the all-ins. The money tech is like Colossus or High Templar with Storm. It's units that can fight Marine Marauder very, very cost effectively, so that third can get up. Okay, let's think about these two things at once. Both the Terran and the Protoss are sort of building up, and then whoosh, there's that period of time where the Terran player is starting to be aggressive, and the Protoss player needs answers. It needs to be able to defend the main, and the natural, and the inevitable third. And this is where we see Colossus rushing come in. Colossus rushing to have a Colossus down by the third, so that can be defended, and maybe one up in the main. Or Stalkers in the main, and then very few units at the third, but there are Colossus. And then the Protoss defends until Protoss suddenly gets enough units to shove the Terran's multi-pronged attacks back, and Terran will find more success keeping his junk together. And then we'll go to the long-form PvT, and late game I would generally describe as the Terran trying to find a chance to drill for the kill, get the big mass army and slaughter, while the Protoss is doing counterattacks. That was an incredibly large amount of information to throw out there. But PigBaby's play is going to look very simple to do, and it is. But I know that you might not play in as standard of games in your experience, and it's important that we have this framework here so you know why this is going on so that you can duly adjust. Cool. PigBaby's spawning in the top right corner. He's going to be up against a liquid TaeJa. So PigBaby, oh, a little louder than I expected. We're going to look, the start of this build, we're going to see how not surprising the setup is. I don't need to talk too much about the logic of the map or any of those other things. I already talked about the general logic of the spaces, and of course, we can see that, you know, a Zealot, Sentry, Colossus Force would be here, and Stalkers would be here. All these sorts of other things. That's very typical of a common PvT, which we're not going to see. So I want to emphasize, if players normally rush to get those Colossus out, what else does that necessarily mean for the Protoss player? If the Protoss player is going to be going for Mass Observer or Mass Zealot, as you heard me say, what else does that mean? What else does that mean? Think about it. Okay, standard stuff. 1 gate, 1 gas, 1 zealot, 1 cancel. Of course a cancel. Look at Mr. Probe coming back. It has a very neat little timing where it scouts and becomes a nexus at the same time, but it's very easy for you to research on your own and not critical to the build. Mothership core comes next, no surprise there. Assimilator comes next, no surprise there. A pylon comes next, no surprise there. Warp gate, are you gonna come next? Generally, we like to see a stalker come up, yeah. But either way's fine. Warp gate coming down. Cool. We got a Protoss player. He's got 2 gas geysers. He's got his defense. He's getting warp gate, and he's getting a stalker to shove everything back. This is the story of standard. This is the story of no surprise. The one thing that I will emphasize now that is the beginning makings of this strategy is this pylon timing. Guarantees that PigBaby does not have his probe production halted. And in fact, this is perhaps the subtle thing that's easy to miss out on, as we see all the other little pieces coming up. Oopsie daisies, I thought I was at 3:30. I must have gone to 4:30. How sad. So very typically what will happen is, after this mothership core gets constructed, and after this goes down, players will want to get the stalker out really fast, but probes are going to be our friend. So this is going down quickly, and Chrono Boost could be applied to this stalker, could be saved for that, but look at how low that energy has been. This is all chronoing on the probes, baby. All chrono probes all the time. There's yet another one. So I'm going to pause again at the 5-minute mark as we see the robotics facility go down, and I want you to just really not be surprised. Look at this. How amusing. We got everything that every Protoss would normally do. This is great. This is super nifty. This is super cool. Okay. Man, I'm starting to realize this might be a rather short daily because this is just so clean and so good. But we'll do it. I know again that I can tack on the end. Okay, in this spot, we already know that PigBaby is going to be going for something zealoty and something observery. We're not going to talk too much about why, but let's talk about some of the what's, some of the entailments of that. PigBaby, to have zealots be any good at all, is going to need charge and maybe upgrades. Does upgrades make sense to us? Well, yes, because upgrades do not really require a lot of gas. They don't actually require a lot of resources. They just require getting started early. Okay. Cool. But if we are going to do that, what are ways in which we would die? So I'm going to pause at this 5-minute mark, and I want you to think about suddenly going double forge and asking, in what ways do we die? I'm going to restate something I said again, just because I think that's like really important. If we want Mass Zealot to work really well, and we've decided that double forge is a really good way to make that work really well, how the hell do we stay alive? How do we die? So what we see out of PigBaby is he says, alright, well, if I'm going double forge, then I want to get some observers up so I don't accidentally die to harassment all around on these edges here. Now, sometimes players will go Colossus first, and they will get that Colossus and try to just be bruntly mighty. But if you get the forges too early, and you get the Colossus too early, you just have a lot of struggle staying alive. Notice how simple my statements are, and we're going to start to see weird things come up from those simple statements. Simple statement, double forge is good, but I die if I double forge and rush for Colossus. So the observers begin to come out. Great, we won't need a terribly large amount of units to be able to get everything into a good position. And what do you know? 2 gateways go down. How interesting. Gateways plopping down. Oh, excuse me, 3 gateways plopping down. Huh, well that's weird. Obviously, there's no good attack timing that revolves around this with observers. I know that there's plays where you get double immortal and get like 4 gate, but there's no like, I'm gonna rush for observers and then I'm gonna get not that many gates and I'm gonna attack late. That just sounds shitty. And it is good intuition. So, these gateways don't make sense unless you know what's coming, which is the double forge. We see the gas geysers go down at 6:30. Very often we would see players throwing down Colossus, but remember, it's double forge that we really are after. We're going to see that crop up real soon here. There will be other components that I will want to take a look at. We already have a good amount of stalkers here. This is a very safe opening. This is supremely safe. There's like almost nothing that can kill you. So even though 7-minute double forge feels very sexy and very fast, 7:30 is a slightly safer way to get these gateways up. There are big aggressive rush plays that involve getting the barracks fast and attacking. We looked at it last week with Maru. This opening will slay that. It will completely annihilate the entire force. So alright, PigBaby is now 100% massively safe from any small early push at the front. Hey, observers are out. What does that mean? PigBaby is completely safe with no units at the front, with 0 units, because he has vision. The observers, a very inexpensive unit, allows PigBaby to have almost no units total. I mean, I think he's still chilling at 4 stalkers, right? And I will go to the PigBaby cam throughout all this. Here's our later robotics bay, and we would normally say, ooh, I don't like a later robotics bay. A later robotics bay means that I'm not going to have that many Colossus. And why would I need a lot of Colossus? Because I want to take a fast third. We're not going to take a fast third. We're just not. I'm going into a lot of detail on this, and it'll all come together sort of at the end in a much more fast way. But still, yet more observers being produced. Now, in terms of being a super PigBaby person, most of your time is going to be spent just watching this minimap. The minimap with all this vision. Here is the exit to his base. Here's the entrance to your base. Or excuse me, his base, exit to our base. Perfect. Checking for observers. Now, you noted that the chrono boost was going down on the probes almost the whole time. Once the forges are done, it's all chrono on just these. Now I want you to continue to appreciate how remarkably safe this is. Here comes the Colossus. Oh! There he finally comes down. Were there 2 sentries made? No. Sorry, misread. And I think that also is... Wait, have there been... Wait, really? I could have sworn I saw 2 sentries get made. Yeah, so this is a little bit unusual. This is the one moment in time that PigBaby's build does get interrupted, because right now, as this Robo is finishing, he should have enough to start a Colossus, and then shortly thereafter start Blink. But PigBaby, I think, very clearly panics and goes, oh my god, and throws down the sentries. Which I think is a little bit of a mishap. I mean, we have 2 observers sitting here idly. PigBaby just messed up. Plain and simple. Very easy to just put another observer over there and continue to leverage just 4 stalkers. That would have been the ideal. Okay, anyways. Surprisingly not going to change the build terrifically much. Here comes a Colossus. Normally around 10 minutes is where the drop aggression begins to kick into high-ass gear. We begin to start seeing so frickin' many Colossus to battle so many medevacs. But wow, that's amazingly late, because remember, we're not relying on Colossus to stay alive, we're relying on 3 gateways to help us stay alive. That's why we got those early. Our focus is to get these forges up, and because there's only so much gas in the universe, we're electing to get that done. Chrono Boost being slightly reallocated to get this Colossus faster, but then right on back to the forges. Now, if you are extremely perceptive, there is one other little tiny thing that is, I think, in my eyes, in my he who watches a billion trillion games of StarCraft eyes, thinks it is the most important component to this entire play. And that is the probe count. 24. 24. We normally talk about halting at 16. Not in this circumstance. I'm going to come all the way back to the 5-minute mark. And I'm going to zoom out so I can bounce back and forth between these. So we can see both the Nexi on the main stage. And we're going to take a look at the Chrono Boost. Chronoing on the probes. Alright. We're at 10 energy, 12 energy-ish. And then, uh-oh, here comes the next set of chronos. Where's it going to go? Oh, well, there's 1 chrono on this Nexus. 1 chrono on... Wow, still chronoing probes. Still doing it. Okay, we have another chrono, and where do you think it's going to be going down? Wow, look at that. It's on the probes. Non-stop on the probes. Now, normally we stop here. Normally we're like, okay, enough with the probe chrono boosting. That was fun. We had our fun. And this is where the forges go down. Very, very fast sprint up to 44 probes, but then continued probe production. Continues to pump these suckers out. I mean, the chronos are going to go on the forges. That's great. But the fact that there's so many extra probes coming down means that PigBaby is going to be at the surprisingly high amount of 48 at each patch, and then 12 total in the gas, for 60 probes on 2 bases. One of my favorite things to say, and you've heard me say it many times, if you want to kill, or if you want to hurt your opponent's gas, kill bases. If you want to hurt your opponent's mineral income, kill workers. It's very easy to saturate gas. If you kill 2 of my guys in gas, yeah, I may have lost 8 gas, but I'm just going to put 2 new ones in there. But of course, with every worker that's killed off, that's 1 guy that's permanently being removed from mining minerals. So we see PigBaby kind of doing it in the reverse way, saying, well, getting double forge means I can't get a 3rd base. Going double forge with Colossus means I can't get that 3rd base for gas income. So I better do a mineral-based strategy. And what's a good way to do a mineral-based strategy? To get a lot of minerals by getting a lot of probes. So there we see the probe production. It doesn't stop. It actually goes to 61. Now, typically, PigBaby will only ever have one sentry, and it'll get built very late. The Zealots act as replacement force fields. Note that there's no charge, still blink coming in. How many how many Stalkers do we have? 4. How many Stalkers did we have at the start of the game? 4. Super, super low Stalker count. This expansion sometimes comes out a little bit sooner. Often it comes out with fewer Zealots. Normally we see something like, a handful of Zealots and then like 2 or 3 sentries. But as I'm going to select these, we generally see a Protoss player who is reluctant to warp in. We normally see a Protoss player reluctant to use the warp gates so he can warp in wherever he needs to. But there's no need to do that. Look at that. We already have all these observers. So as we look at these gateways, we have them selected. Obviously there's no money that can be used right now. But we still see, hey, there's a lot of use out of these gateways. Quite a lot. Yeah. Gateways getting used a surprisingly high amount. And despite using these gateways a pretty high amount, there's somehow enough money for extra gateways. This is just what happens when you have 60 probes. And it's going to make the enabling of this base much, much easier. So great, we got this big attack going on. And this is one that I think almost everyone was like, wow. Yeah, a little bit of a rough engagement for TaeJa, but at least he got that Colossus. What you're really thinking with this build that PigBaby's doing is, oh my god, thank freaking god, I didn't lose that many Zealots. Normally there's pylons going down here. Zealots are considered the throwaway piece to this force. PigBaby is going to do everything he can to conserve those Zealots. He's even more willing to lose Stalkers than he is willing to lose Zealots. Joining all these together is possible because of all these observers that are littering the map. So we're going to wrap this game up real fast. 10, 12 gateways tends to be about the money amount. How many probes are there? 61. Still the same amount. We can return back to 16 here, 16 here, and then begin to just quickly pump out an extra round, but we're seeing PigBaby do no such thing. Chronoboost devoted heavily to the forges, and it's just going to be a nice, elegant 3-3 timing attack. Just going up from 60 to around 66 or so is generally a good stopping spot. That's how you saturate on 3 bases. But PigBaby hasn't even taken these gas geysers yet. He's still just devoting all his funds to building lots and lots and lots of Zealots. So we have Zealots warping in the main, but we don't want to leave Zealots in the main. We want them to be part of the main force. That's why we have so many observers that we're happy about in the late game. We can completely abandon the main. Isn't this easy? There's been no attacks from PigBaby at all. None. He has lost no Zealots. He has 35 Zealots, now 39. He's going to have 40 Zealots. And this is not even an all-in, because as this force moves out, as this maxed scary Protoss force moves out, PigBaby is just going to take a 4th. Now, there's not terribly many Colossus in this game. You see some different ones coming up. But I thought this was grand to watch. To make sense of this, we're going to begin doing it again in fast mode, but I will give you the victory attack. There's Ghosts there. There's EMPs. Why does it matter if your opponent has EMPs when you have so many more Zealots than they're capable of dealing with? And an extremely simple fight. TaeJa just gets rolled. So much chatter happens about Templar and Colossus. This is PigBaby emphasizing minerals, emphasizing Zealots. So now I'm going to speed through this at a slightly more strategic vantage point. Stalkers come out early on to provide a little bit of control. We're already planning on getting double forge very fast, so the way we're going to stay alive is with gateway units and observers, so we can be as lean as possible with our gassy units. We really don't want to get more than 4 stalkers early. But hey, guess what? If he does do an 8-minute attack, which is increasingly becoming popular, we're going to snap that neck, no problem. Okay. I've been building nothing but probes and chronoing nothing but probes, but now that the forges are out, that's my timing push, so I'm going to go ahead and get that. Colossus is going to follow up because I want this to be the core of the force. Vikings are the response to Colossus. Those are very, very bad against Zealots. I suppose I could go High Templar, but my enemy might build Ghosts, which is really good against Zealots. Colossus force Vikings. Vikings make the anti-Zealot force weaker. 10 minutes is arriving, the time at which all the harass happens, sometimes double-pronged attacks. Thank God I have these observers. That's why I built 5 of them in the first place, and why most of them are staying back home, because I want to make sure I can be calm and be efficient. I want to get Blink to stay as defensive as possible, to stay as lean as possible. Blink Colossus is no mystery as being a strong factor to defending mid-game aggression, and now all of a sudden we have this Colossus sentry force with a surprising amount of Zealots. Surprising! We're so used to seeing so few Zealots, but they're really getting massed up. And where we'd see this Nexus maybe come down a little earlier, maybe come down right about then in other games. PigBaby's more than ready with 24 probes at each location. He starts to rally in huge numbers of gateways, and it's just play calm, play efficient. Try not to lose Zealots, try not to lose Zealots. Now, here is the point in time where if I come to the View All tab, we see many Terrans will be going double starport with barracks. Many Terrans will be preparing an SCV pull. No problem. 2-2's done, and our gateways, 10 of them, will be finished when that SCV pull happens. I'll say it again, dear Protosses, if you've been losing to SCV pulls, this is the build for you. No gas. We are a mineral-focused peoples. And just constant warping in of Zealots. 40 Zealots are going to be arriving very, very early. So many observers. Always happy to replace an observer instead of building a Colossus. The Colossus really helped distract from the Terran's true focus, which should be on the Zealots. Extremely safe opening from PigBaby. He's just going to get some Archons. I think if there is some harassment that PigBaby might consider doing, it would be Dark Templar. It would not be the counter-Zealot harassment. He wants to keep every one of those Zealots alive for the win. When we come back, we will have the pleasure of seeing a few more of these games from PigBaby. It's a very solid play for ladder because you never attack ever and you're just watching the minimap. It trains the fundamentals very, very well. And it gets you comfortable with the idea of a build that has a clear purpose. You might have to warp in some extra units to stay alive, but you know where you're going. You might never get attacked, and you still know where you're going. The 3-3, 10 to 12 gate, big-ass timing with the Zealots is a very clean win. So when we come back, we'll see 2 more examples. Apologies to Nathanius who's in chat. Protosses are going to do this to you.